Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis. Welcome to this next video lesson. What I want to do is to create a program that draws a diamond based on this flowchart. So as you can see over here, I've got kinds of information over here that helps me lead to a solution of drawing the diamond. Now really what we're doing is we're drawing two triangles. We're drawing a right side up triangle and an upside down triangle. So the idea is to create an algorithm that will take into consideration the initial spaces, the number of stars per row, how far shall I go to draw the top part of the diamond, how far shall I go until I draw the bottom part of the diamond. Okay, so all of that has been figured out for you. So this lecture is not about solving that algorithm. You've already done that via this flowchart. Next time, we'll actually create an algorithm to do something like this. Okay, right now we're just following the algorithm via this flowchart, and I want to make sure that you understand how to become a translator from this to Visual Studio, or specifically C++. So we're really just translating this information over here. Okay, so I'm in the declarations section. Let me go over here and take a look. Now, in this particular flowchart, it looks like it did give me some variables to declare, such as counter, user num, row, spaces to draw, stars to draw, and it says all of them have to be as whole numbers. Now that means that in Visual C++, or just in C++, those are all integers. So let me just go back and forth. Okay, so the first one is counter, so we'll say int counter. Actually, let me see, did it say counter? Yeah, it did. The next one is user num, so int user num. Looks like I have over here where my cursor is, row, spaces to draw, stars to draw, and that's it, I think. Yeah, stars to all of them as whole numbers. So all of these now have been declared as whole numbers. Let's see what the next part of the flowchart says to do. All right, so it says over here, print diamond size, and then I'm supposed to obtain the data from the user. So this rhombus shape is either for input or for output. If you're going to be displaying something on the screen or obtaining something from the keyboard, you use this rhombus. The rectangle, we call that a process. If something is about to be processed, that's when you use a rectangle, such as calculation, say for example, or printing something. Now, I could use this same flowchart for Visual Basic or C# or any language for that matter. Now, since our programs are console-based, we're going to have to see out something to the user. See out what is the diamond size. Okay, so for me, a C++ programmer, I see this and I think to myself, okay, that's a see out statement. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go to the Get User Input section. Now, did I tell you to go to Get User Input? No, you would have to know, well, since I'm asking the user to give me the diamond size, and I'm about to read that, it makes sense that I better go ahead and go to the Get User Input section. So I'm trying to think out loud so that you hear me, and this is what you would do in the same process. Okay, so print diamond size. Okay, so that means see out diamond size. Okay, now the next statement over here or the next area that I have to deal with is user num. It says read this and put this into the user num variable. Okay, so that's a cin statement in C++. So we're going to put this into a variable called user num, which I've already declared above. Okay, now let's follow these arrows, and it looks like it goes over here. Now, is this an if statement or is this a while statement? Well, the way that you can determine that is see if we go back into this diamond shape. And it looks like we do. You can see the path right here. Since we are going back into this, that means that this is a repetition structure. Now, I say while statement, but really I should have said repetition structure because I could use for, while, do. Sometimes I'll say if statement, but I really should say selection structure because I could use switch or if. Okay, but it looks like this is definitely a repetition. So I'll just use the while statement. While the user num is greater than 15 or the user num is even. Okay, because when I'm displaying this diamond on a console, I don't want to get it to be so big that it goes off screen. So we'll just limit it to a diamond size of 15. Oh, actually, it says if it's greater than 15, so really I'll display a diamond size of 13 or smaller. And of course, since I'm drawing diamonds, I have to have even, I can't have even numbers. I have to be an odd number, right? Because the first row is going to have 1 star. The next row is going to have 3 stars. The next row is going to have 5 stars. Well, those are all odd numbers, right? So we want to make sure that we have an odd number. So this is a while statement. I'll go back over here, and I think I'm going to go to the calculation section. And over here, I'll just say while. Okay, while what? While the user number is greater than 15. Okay, while the user num is greater than 15. Now over here it says or. In C++, that's the 2 vertical lines like this. We call that the pipe symbol on your keyboard. If you look at the enter key on your keyboard, the button right above it has that vertical line of the backslash. We call that the pipe. That's the logical OR operator in C++. Or what? Or if the user number is even. Well, you know what we could do is we could use the modulus operator, because you know that the modulus operator, if I mod something to 2, so for example, if I did, what does it say? User number is even. Okay, so if user num mod 2 is equal to 0. I'm going to put a parens around that particular operation, so this thing stands out like this. Okay, so let's investigate this here. The number 2. 2 mod 2, okay? So remember, modulus finds the remainder of. So what is the remainder of 2 divided by 2? It's 0. So this operation is 0. That means you got an even number. This is not going to work. How about the number 5? What is 5 mod 2? Remember, we're finding the remainder. Well, that's 1. Is 1 equal to 0? No, it's not. So what this little operation does is it determines if the user number is even or odd. If it's 0, if the user number such that it's divisible by 2, if there is no remainder, then that means that you have an even number. Try one more. 6. 6 mod 2, that's 0. There is no remainder. 8 mod 2. 10 mod 2, 12, any even number mod 2 is always going to be 0. And we don't want even numbers, we want odd numbers. Okay, so now I'm going to put this open and close curly braces. And I'm going to go back over here. Now, if you entered a number that's too big, or if you entered a number that's even, then I want to give some sort of an input back to the user. And so what I want to do is I want to say, okay, print invalid input, and then the next line below is just going to be like this guy over here, diamond size. And so in other words, we're asking the user to enter another diamond size. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll just simply say print invalid input. Okay, so for me as a C++ programmer, that means cout invalid input. Now I probably should have been a little bit more verbose, like you know, you have an invalid input, or you entered an even number, or you entered a number that's too big. You know, we can go into the more refined nuance later on. I'm just trying to show you a demonstration of translating from a flowchart. All right, so now that I've done that, it says the next thing I'm supposed to do is to say diamond size. So we'll cout diamond size, giving the user an opportunity to enter another value. All right, so after we do that, it looks like I have this read section, which means get the user input and put that into user num. Okay, so let's see in, and we're going to put this into user num. All right, what do I do after that? It looks like I go back to the top of the while statement. That's it, right? So this while statement is finished based on this little flowchart area. So what are we doing? We're asking the user to give a new input. Let's say that it's 10. All right, is 10 greater than 15? No, so that's good. We're less than 15. Or is this an even number? Well, let's see, 10 mod 2, that's remainder of 0. That's equal to 0. That doesn't work. That's an even number. So guess what? Invalid input, diamond size, get the input, and we do this all over again. So we keep on doing this while the user is entering an even number, or while the user is entering a number that's greater than 15. Okay? So this takes care of making sure that the user is entering the correct data. Once we've done that, eventually hopefully this thing will be false. And when it is false, it looks like we've got some processing to do. Remember, the rectangle means processing. So what do I do? Set row to 1, set spaces to draw to something, set stars to draw to something. Okay, and it looks like it's after the while statement. So over here, after the while statement, what am I going to do? Set the row equal to 1, or assign row to 1. Spaces to draw is going to be, assigned, looks like I'm taking user number divided by 2 and I'm casting that as an integer. So I'm taking this user num divided by 2 and I'm casting this as an integer. So we'll take this guy over here and I'll say int. And put a semicolon over here. So I'm going to take this and cast this as an integer. So therefore, if it's 5, that's going to come back as 2, right? Because 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. I just want the integer portion. Apparently, this is going to help me with determining the number of spaces to draw. Yes? You could use static cast, yeah. Same thing. The idea is just making sure that this thing returns an integer. Okay, let's see, what do I have? Stars to draw, okay. And what am I doing? I'm setting that equal to 1, or I'm assigning that to 1. So I guess I could put a comment over here. Really what we're doing is we are establishing the initial values before we start drawing the diamond. In other words, we're getting ready, is what we're doing. Okay, so once I've done that, okay, so now I've approached a diamond. Now I have to ask myself a question: is this a selection structure, like an if statement, or a repetition structure, like a while statement? Well, let's see. So if I go over here, it looks like I've got an arrow that goes all the way across, and it looks like it comes back out the top. I go back over here, and it goes right back in. That's a repetition structure. So I'll just use the while statement. All right, so over here, while, all right, row is less than or equal to, so while row is less than or equal to the user number plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, so the user number plus 1 quantity divided by 2. If this is true, then we're going to do something. If this is false, then we're going to do something else. So let's focus on the true part, which is the part within the curly braces. Now, I know that what we're really doing is we're drawing the top part of the diamond. Draw the top part of the diamond. Okay, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, if this is true, set the counter to 0. Okay, so we'll set counter to 0. Next. Looks like I have another diamond shape. Let me follow the path. Look at that. It's a repetition structure. So this is another while statement within this while statement. While the counter is less than spaces to draw. Okay, so while the counter is less than spaces to draw. While that is true, what am I supposed to do? Well, let's see. Looks like I'm supposed to append a space to the output. Okay, well, I don't recall creating a string called output, so it looks like I'm going to have to output this to the console. So how do I append a space to the output? I just simply say cout space like that. Right? Append a space to the output. So really what this thing is going to be doing is it's drawing the spaces. And then it says increment counter. Okay, so counter, I could just use plus plus, or I could use plus equals 1, or I could use counter is assign counter plus 1. Right? They all do the same thing. All right, so really what am I doing here? Drawing the initial spaces. That's really what this thing does. Okay, let me save all. Go back over here. So I've just completed this portion. Now, when this is finished, that's where the false part comes in, I set the counter back to 0. Okay, so after the while statement, I set the counter back to 0. And then what do? Ah, look at this, another looping structure. While the counter is less than stars to draw. While the counter is less than stars to draw. While that is true, what am I supposed to do? Let's see here. Append a star to the output. Okay, so append, which means add to a star to the output. And then increment the counter. Okay, so counter is going to be incremented by 1. So this is going to be drawing the stars in the row. So I draw the initial spaces, I draw the stars. That's what these two repetition statements take care of. And once I've done that, then eventually this thing is going to be false. And what am I supposed to do? All right, so decrement spaces to draw, increment spaces or stars to draw, so forth and so on. So it looks like I'm getting ready for the next iteration. So when this is all done, I'll say get ready for the next iteration, which is just a fancy word for get ready for the next loop. If we were runners on a track, so get ready for the next lap. Right? All right, well, what are we supposed to do? Decrement spaces to draw. Okay, so spaces to draw. We'll decrement that by 1. Increment stars to draw by 2. Okay, so stars to draw is going to be incremented by 2. Increment row. Okay, so whatever the value for row is, we're going to increment that by 1. Finally, go to the next row. Well, in C++, we do that by sending an end else statement. So you see what we've done. We've taken those shapes and the flowchart and we've changed them into C++ statements. So that's exactly what you are behaving as right now as a translator, to go from here to here. So this chunk of code, and what does that belong to? This is what I like to do, because this while statement is kind of complex here. It takes a lot of statements here. So I'll just take this guy over here, copy it, and I'll go down over here. That belongs to this curly braces. Let me put a comment over here. So now I know that this curly bracket really belongs to the top of the while statement, which is in essence drawing the top part of the diamond, or the right side up triangle. All right, so when this is done, then we go back over here and we do this whole while statement all over again, which is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go all the way back to the top. We're going to draw this, and then we keep on doing this as long as what? As long as the row is less than or equal to user number plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, which in essence is drawing the top part of the diamond. All right, now, once that has been completed, when this while statement is false, now we do this. In essence, what we're going to do is we're going to get ready to draw the bottom part of the diamond. So over here, I'll just simply say draw bottom part of the diamond. And when we're going to draw that bottom part of the diamond, what are we going to do? Well, it looks like I set spaces to draw to 1. So spaces to draw to 1. Put a semicolon there. Next, stars to draw is going to be assigned user num minus 2. So stars to draw is going to be assigned user num minus 2. Let me double check. Yep, user num minus 2. All right, let's see what else we're supposed to do. Once I've done this, where am I? Oh, over here. Okay, so then it looks like I'm going into a diamond shape, so I have to ask myself, is this a repetition or a selection structure? So let me just follow these lines here. And let's see if we go back to that diamond shape. It goes back over here. Yep, it looks like we entered this. So this is the behavior, as you can see here. It goes all the way to the end over here, and it comes back in here. So this is a repetition structure. I'll just use a while statement. While the row is less than or equal to user num. Okay, so while the row is less than or equal to user num. While the row is less than or equal to user num. Okay, so that takes care of that while statement. Now let's go ahead and fill everything else in based on this flowchart. And what am I supposed to do? Set the counter to 0. Okay, so counter is going to be set to 0. Next, looks like I'm over here at this diamond shape, and it looks like this is repeating, so therefore this is a repetition structure. I'll just use a while statement. While the counter is less than spaces to draw. So while the counter is less than spaces to draw. While that is true, what are we supposed to do? Append a space to the output. Okay, so that just simply means send a space to the output. And once we've done that, increment the counter. Okay, so that's simply counter is counter plus 1, or is assign counter plus 1. So it looks like we're drawing the initial spaces. So I'll just simply put a comment over here. Draw the initial spaces. That's what this chunk of code is doing. We're drawing the initial spaces. After we've done this, let's see here. It looks like once this thing is false, we set the counter to 0. Okay, so we set the counter back to 0. And then, here's another repetition structure. While the counter is less than stars to draw. While the counter is less than stars to draw. That's this part right here. Counter less than stars to draw. Oops. Counter less than stars to draw. Good. So while that is true, what am I supposed to do? Append a star to the output. Okay, so in C++, that means cout. Put an asterisk in the output, or a star to the output. Next, increment the counter. Okay, so counter is going to be counter plus 1. And that's it. Then we just keep on doing this over and over again. So it looks like we're drawing the stars on the row. So draw the stars for this row. So look at this behavior. While statement, little while statement, little while statement, back to the next row, little while statement, little while statement. Go to the next row, draw the initial spaces, draw the initial stars, go to the next row, so forth and so on, right? So for a given row, you're going to have to draw a certain number of spaces and a certain number of stars. Go to the next row, do the same thing over and over and over again. Once we've done this, now we are getting ready for the next iteration or for the next lap. And that's this part over here. Increment spaces to draw, decrement stars to draw, so forth and so on. Okay, so that's going to be after, well, let's see here. That's going to be within, I should say. So within our while statement, I'll say get ready for the next iteration, i.e. lap. Right? Like we're running laps around a track. Get ready for the next possible lap. How do I do that? Increment spaces to draw. Next, decrement stars to draw by 2. Okay, so stars to draw. We are going to decrement that by 2. Next, increment row. Okay, so row is going to be incremented by 1. Next, go to the next row. In C++, that's just sending out an endl statement. Now we are finished. We go back and we ask the question, shall we do this again? So this curly braces belongs to this while statement. So I'll just take this guy over here, copy it, and put a comment down here just so that I can see, since this is going off screen, what does that belong to. We are finished with this while statement. We go back and we just keep on doing this over and over and over again. Let me zoom out a little bit so I can show you. I know you can't read the code, but I just want to show you the pattern here. So here's the while statement. So this is the pattern. Draw the bottom part of the diamond, draw the initial spaces, draw the initial stars, get ready for the next iteration. Go back over here. Shall we do this again? Draw the initial spaces, draw the initial stars. Shall we do this again? Draw the initial spaces, draw the initial stars, and so forth and so on. Okay, so that's the pattern. Once we are done with that, what am I supposed to do? Well, let me go back to my flowchart and end of program. That's it. We're done. All right, let's see what happens. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to put anything in output. It says we're done. Well, let's see what happens. Run the program. Diamond size. Okay, let me make some errors. 10. Invalid input. Diamond size. Okay, well, I can't put an even number. 45. Invalid input, because remember, we don't want anything greater than 15. I'll try 13. Okay, so notice how it draws the top part, which is a right side up triangle, and then the bottom part, which is an upside down triangle. Let me try it again. 7. Yeah. Now, really what I should have done is I probably should have put some minimal value, because I don't want the user entering -3, even though it's an odd number, right? But that's okay. I just want to see if we can understand this idea of going from a flowchart to a C++ program. So that's in essence how you would do it. That's how you think about a problem like this. I mean, there's obviously a lot more nuance to this. We could talk about how to work with functions. Say, for example, drawing a function on a flowchart so that it's displaying an idea, a visual idea of how to solve a problem. Okay. All right. So this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.